I want to emphasize that a lot of these ideas that we're going to share today is really aimed towards the B2B business. That's our specialty. That's how BizGro, that's the BizGro clientele. And we help service healthcare providers, and we service business service specialists, and we help with wholesale and manufacturing companies and business service companies. So it's very important that you understand that everything we're going to share with you tonight is aimed towards the B2B company. Now I want to take a poll in the room. Who here owns a business where you sell a product or service to some sort of business or corporate or government entity? Just raise your hands. You're an owner or you're a principal. Who is a trusted advisor to this group? Who doesn't belong in this place and snuck in? No one raised their hand. Just keep in mind we have good security then. That means we kept them out. By the way, one rule that's not in this PowerPoint is I want everyone to accept every idea I present, and every time I tell a joke, you must laugh.
Even if it's not funny?
Even if it's not funny, although we have some BizGro and Metlife people on the payroll that will laugh even if I'm not funny, regardless. It's kind of like having a TV sitcom with background laughter, you know? So, yeah, there you go. Let's talk about quotas. There's a quota. Everyone in B2B business has to appreciate a quota. Here's the quota. BizGro, in conjunction with Metlife, has a quota of 7. 4 growth ideas and 3 ideas revolved around protecting increased assets and increased income. So we're going to share with you these 7 ideas. I want the audience to have a quota of 1. I want you to cultivate one idea. One idea that you can apply to your business, apply to your life. One idea that tomorrow you can think in terms of applying to your business and actually putting into practice. I want you to make this idea your new boyfriend or your girlfriend. Just don't tell your spouse. You're already in trouble because you're hanging out with JC at 7 o'clock at night. Either or, I want you to cultivate this one idea. If the idea appeals to you, maybe we can talk about it. And that's important. I want to talk about the reality. And today's marketplace is really tough. Who here would agree that it's harder to grow a company today than it was 7 years ago? Who here would agree with that?
Definitely.
Who here would agree that the sales cycle is actually longer? It actually takes longer for people to make buying decisions. Who would agree with that? Who would agree with the fact that money is really hard to come by these days? It's harder to raise money than it was 6, 7, 8 years ago. That's the reality. Now we're going to go to the double reality. Who here would agree that the government is not that supportive of small business? Very interesting. Who here would agree that there are more taxes and regulations associated with small business than ever before? Look at this. So in other words, it's harder to grow a company today than it was 6 or 7, 8 years ago. So one of the things we're going to emphasize the idea of proactively growing your business. Because if you're not proactive in this environment, it's very difficult. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. We have 7 ideas. So I'm going to tell you what it is. First, we're going to talk about the idea of proactively seeking out customers, and the idea of, and I'm going to challenge the notion of hiring salespeople to do it strictly. I'm going to challenge that idea. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars being spent by businesses hiring salespeople with no return. Who's had that experience, by the way, of hiring salespeople with no return? It's an epidemic in small business. It's an epidemic in B2B business. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to tell you how we can potentially address that issue. We'll talk about social media, what it is and what it isn't. There's this mystique about social media. There are web development firms that are charging thousands and thousands of dollars trying to convince you that it's a marketing tool when it's not. We're going to talk about it. And we're also going to talk about how social media plays a role with regard to B2B businesses in particular, because B2B business is different from B2C business. It's different. You have a different business when you target the entrepreneur, you target the corporate entity, than when you target the non-business consumer. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about business acquisitions, how this can be a tool, how you can double and triple and quadruple the size of your company today. Now, this process is for smart people. So I'm going to give the permission for the dumb people in the room to actually take a break and get a drink and come back. Because if you're really smart, you're deal savvy, this strategy could really resonate with you. Double, triple, quadruple the size of your business instead of trying to grow your business 10 to 20%. And finally, we're going to talk a little bit about, in terms of the growth ideas, we're going to talk a little bit about the new paradigm for raising money. It's not with angels. It's not with banks. It's not with private equity. This is 2007. This is 2006. There's a new paradigm that's developed. A new paradigm, totally. We'll talk about that. And we're going to give you a concept or an idea of how to gain the resources you need to raise the money for your business today. Now, on the Metlife end, there are 3 ideas that are compatible with our 4 growth ideas. One idea, we're going to talk a little bit about it, and they're going to talk about it in particular, is the use of life insurance and how to protect your income. Here's the difference. If you're at a higher income level than the norm, then you got to think of life insurance in a totally different way. If you're making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, or you're aspiring to make $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year, life insurance is a different game. We'll talk about it. We're going to talk about defined pension plans and how you can use that mechanism as you grow your company as a way to defer taxes. Very important. Because as you grow your income, you want to make sure that the government doesn't take half. Who here thinks it makes absolutely no sense to give your increased income to the government? Pay attention to this strategy. Finally, we'll talk about trusts. Trusts as a mechanism to protect your income against angry creditors, angry spouses, and the government. I love this concept. Maybe because I'm single. There are some angry creditors and some angry spouses in the room right now. I want you to pay attention to this concept because this is the flip side coin of the argument. Pay attention. So that's what we're going to talk about. So let's go into the program. Let's get into the first idea here. Idea 1. Again, think in terms of B2B business. First idea is the importance of a budgeted outbound marketing and selling process that is assembly lined. Grab the pen. I know everyone has a pen and a pad right now. I want you to write 3 concepts down. Just write it down. I want you to write down these 3 concepts. All right, first concept, outbound marketing. Write that down. I want you to physically write the concept of outbound marketing down. Second concept I want you to write down is budget. Write down budget. And the third concept I want you to write down is assembly line. As you can see, this is kind of like an HTO concept. There's elements to this. A budgeted outbound marketing selling process that's assembly line. Let's explain what this is. Outbound marketing. What's outbound marketing? Again, think in terms of B2B business. You're targeting a corporate entity. You're targeting a business entity. You're targeting a government entity. What's B2B? outbound marketing. Outbound marketing is the process in which we proactively seek out our target market. We proactively go to them. We physically go to them. We visit them. We build relationship with them. They don't respond to us. We go to them. That's outbound marketing. That's a different concept. That's different from putting an ad in a media publication. That's different from putting an ad in an internet marketing publication. Right? That's different. That's a different concept. Outbound marketing is we're going to them. We're physically going to them. We're building a relationship with them. Very important in B2B business. Now, what can you do with outbound marketing? This is what I'm talking about with outbound marketing. I'm talking about meeting 5 people a month, 5 key prospects a month, 10 key prospects a month, 15 key prospects a month, maybe as much as 20, 30, 40 key prospects a month, where we go to them and we physically build. We actually have a sales presentation. Maybe we have a key conference call. We build a relationship with them. And if you close, BizGro, just to give you an example, we have about 4 or 5 different territories that we're developing. And we're developing anywhere between 5 and 8 leads or sales physical meetings a month. Well, guess what? 4 or 5 territories that we're working, we're talking about anywhere between 25 and 30 leads a month. Well, if you have a 30% closing ratio, guess what? That's between 8 and 12 clients a month. How many here, if they had 6 or 7 or 8 new clients a month, would have a business that can grow 20, 30, 40%? Raise your hand. So when we talk about outbound marketing, we're talking about we're not taking nothing for granted. We're not relying on referrals. We're not relying on contacts. That should be the gravy of a business. What we're doing is we're taking the bull by the horns and we're actually proactively seeking out business and we're meeting prospects in our target market. Now, there's an analogy that I think is important, and I'm going to throw the analogy. Maybe it's a little risky, maybe it's not, maybe it's a little controversial, but I'm going to do it. I want everyone in the room who's a female who believes they're attractive to raise their hand. Let me Jenna Rosa, you don't know Jenna Rosa. Jenna Rosa is in the publishing arena. 30, 40 years in the publishing arena. An amazing woman. We're actually doing business with Jenna Rosa. One of the things that Jenna Rosa is doing is she's helping entrepreneurs publish books as a way to promote their business. So I want, after this event, you may want to speak to Jenna Rosa. We're doing business with Jenna Rosa, and as you can tell, she is confident. As an exercise, though, in terms of understanding outbound marketing, I noticed that one of the people that raised my hand was my brother's girlfriend, Gianna. Raise your hand. And I want you to come in the middle here. We'll do a little exercise.
Okay, Dan. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Am I blocking time?
She's star ready, as you can see.
Absolutely.
All right. I want to pose a question to Gianna as this attractive female. Gianna,
Yes.
by the way, brother's girlfriend, wherever Sam is, turn around. I don't want him to see this. All right, good.
Okay, he's not here. Let's go.
Good. When you're single, and when you're single,
Uh-huh.
Sam, miss Sam. Go ahead.
when you're single,
Babe, go get me
if
a
you,
drink.
if
You're gonna need it.
there you go.
When I'm single.
When you're single,
Uh,
if you want to date, do you need to approach a man, or do they approach you?
absolutely. I get approached. Yeah.
She gets approached. Why is that?
I verified that.
Why is that?
Why is that?
You making me
He
nervous.
has the product.
I mean,
That's good. She has the product.
That's right.
That's me to
they
say.
like me, they like me, they love me, they love me.
They love you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Is there anything that a man can do to get you to approach them?
Yeah.
Probably not. No. Well, for me, probably not.
Why is that?
Well, I don't have to. They come to me, so why would I go to them?
Good answer. Good answer.
Listen to this. They go to her. She doesn't have to go to them.
Unless there's a motive behind it.
Maybe.
I never have a motive.
Turn on your Discovery TV and Lamborghini.
It could be business related.
So if a man wants to be with you, what does he really need to do?
I would say he needs to be persistent. Persistent. Not too crazy, but persistent is good.
Okay.
You don't want stalker status, but you want persistent.
So you need to be persistent, but you can't be a stalker. I want you to pay attention to this.
You're paying attention to what I'm saying? Good.
All of this because you think you're hot.
Absolutely. They're gonna kill you.
No turkey dinner for you.
Absolutely not.
You can sit down. Give Gianna a round of applause. All right. You might think, what the heck does this have to do with anything? I'm going to tell you what this has to do with anything. I want you to pay attention. All right. Yes. The prospects you want in B2B business are dream accounts. The guys or the gals that spend real money with you are like the attractive female. They get approached every day by your competitors. How? By emails, by salespeople, by telephone solicitations. They have options. So the problem is in B2B business that the prospects we want have a selective mindset in the way that an attractive female would have a selective mindset with a man. Which means that if we don't have a proactive approach to our marketing and we sit back, chances are we're missing out on some of the best customers you could possibly have. And that's one of the key aspects or elements to outbound marketing. By the way, men who want to talk to Gianna afterwards, that wouldn't be nice. So I would calm that down. But either or, that's one of the elements of outbound marketing. So here's some examples of some outbound marketing strategies. Now, I'm not talking about referrals. I'm not talking about relationships. See, I think referrals and networking and relationships and being well connected should be the gravy. It should not be the solid meat. It shouldn't be the main course. It should be when you get a referral and someone comes in your door and spends money with you, that should be pure profit. That should not be paying the bills. We need to pay the bills with our marketing. And in B2B business, here are some of the strategies that you use to actually grow a company. Telemarketing, direct marketing, email marketing, the use of salespeople, trade shows, seminars. Just curious, how many people here came here just because they heard about the seminar?
Not me.
How many people came here because we reached out to you and invited you? That's outbound marketing. Had we waited and sat back and just hoped that people came, no one would have been here at this event. So it's just a mindset. Now you might say, well, I know this. How about this? BizGro meets hundreds and hundreds of businesses on a regular basis. And I can't tell you the amount of businesses that don't have any outbound marketing process in place. They don't have a process whereby they meet 5, 10, 15, 20, 40, 50 leads a month in their target market. They have no process. They're just hoping that business comes to them. That is a major mistake when it comes to trying to grow your business. And really, when we talk about outbound marketing, we're talking about whether you're interested in growing your company 20, 30, 40, 50%. We're not talking about you maintaining status quo. How many here want to grow their company? Then we need to get into outbound marketing. We need to go and see the prospects that will most likely buy. Very important. All right, let's talk about the 2 challenges. Now, remember, I made you write 3 concepts. We have kind of like an H2O concept. One concept is outbound marketing, but we have the 2 other concepts within the idea. One is budget, and the other is assembly line. Let's talk about budget. Budget. We meet a lot of owners. Who here has heard of the concept of marketing is an investment, not an expense? Who here has? Everyone. There's a lot of marketing people that will try to convince you of this, me included. But the real savvy people in the room, and I can tell by your body language, the real experienced people in the room know this one concept. They know that if your marketing doesn't work and bring in real customers, it quickly becomes an expense. Quickly. You spent $5,000 on a marketing concept, it brought in no customers. What does that look like on your financial statement? It's an expense. There's a major problem with this. Who here has had terrible experiences with marketing that did not work? So there's some experience here, and it can quickly become an expense. I want to share with you a concept that we learned over the years that might be able to change this. Because what happens is, just because you got burned doesn't mean you ought to not market. It's kind of like the jilted lover. You got burned by someone who wasn't right for you in the relationship. Does that mean you shouldn't have a relationship? Highly intelligent people don't think that way. And it's the same concept when it comes to marketing. You might have gotten burned, but that doesn't mean we can't go through the process of marketing to get more customers. So let me try to talk to you about a concept that might work here. Don't think of marketing as an investment. Don't think of marketing as an expense. Think of marketing as the process of buying customers. You're taking money and you're trying to buy a customer. What you're trying to do is, if you have a real product and service, maybe your customer will stay with you 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Maybe you have a big ticket item where you make money with the customer and you make $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. Whatever it is. Think in terms of buying customers. What's the goal of buying customers? You lay out money, you buy the customer. For the first year, the customer breaks you even. Beyond the first year, the customer makes you profit. I want you to conceptualize that thought. The only reason to market is because you want to buy a customer. And in order to achieve that, you must allocate money to your budget. You're buying customers. I think we get caught up in terms of whether a marketing concept will work, whether it won't work, whether it's going to be investment, whether it's not an investment. No, I want you to think in terms of, we're going to buy a customer. We're going to lay out X dollars. The customer will bring X dollars. And we want to break even for year one. Beyond that is our profit. If you can think in terms of that, then it's a little bit easy to go beyond this fear, because it's the fear of losing money, it's the fear of losing cash flow that stops us from marketing. Quite frankly, all the businesses that I see that grow 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% don't ever compromise their budget for marketing. Marketing is everything. And by the way, what's the goal of marketing? Just want to get an answer from the room. What's the goal of marketing?
To grow your company.
Yes.
Generate leads.
Generate leads.
Increase sales.
Increase sales.
Get a customer.
How about this?
Get a customer.
Get a customer. I heard generate leads. Can we amend that?
Qualified.
Qualified leads. Get qualified leads. That's the goal of marketing. That's it. If your marketing doesn't bring in qualified leads, then you need to change the approach. But that doesn't mean we stop marketing. You must budget money for marketing. Some of that money won't work. Some of it will. But in any event, we're buying customers. That's what we're doing. We're buying customers. We want to break even for the first year. And then year 2, year 3, year 4, we'll make our money. That's how the successful businesses and the entrepreneurs that we consult with think. And it's very important to cultivate that idea. Second, now I'm going to talk about the real deal and what we've experienced. And it's pretty sad. And it's an epidemic. I want you to really pay attention to this idea, because it's an epidemic. I'm a salesperson at heart. I love sales. I have no problem with salespeople. They're my kind of people. But I will tell you right now, there's an epidemic. The epidemic is that salespeople are now demanding draws, salaries, benefits, almost as if they were employees. The days of straight commission have totally vanished. Salespeople want to get paid $3,000 a month, $5,000 a month. In some industries, as much as a six-figure income before a sale is even made. This is a total different paradigm than what you saw 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. This is pretty scary. When you're a B2B business, you think in terms of, I know how to buy a product, I know how to sell a product, I know how to manage companies, and I'm going to hire a salesperson, and they're going to bring in the business. But now, to bring in the business, you have to lay out 3, 4, 5, 7, maybe as much as $10,000 a month before a sale is even made to get a quality salesperson. And guess what? If that salesperson has a track record, if that salesperson has clients, if that salesperson can actually make things happen in their mind at least, you could be out $10, $20, $50, $100,000 out of pocket without a sale being made. It's an epidemic. It's a change in society. It's not what salespeople used to be. Salespeople used to be, you eat what you kill. Salespeople used to be a whole lot more entrepreneurial. Now we have an epidemic. So when we talk about the second part, remember the second part that I gave you, which is assembly line. Assembly line is most businesses hire a salesperson and they hope that the salesperson will bring in business. And they say, you know what, Mr. Salesperson, you're going to cold call. Mr. Salesperson, you're going to go and send out emails. Mr. Salesperson, I want you to go to Wednesday night's Metlife BizGro networking event, and I want you to go and meet some people and bring in some business. Mr. Salesperson, you're involved, you're in charge of that. And me, as an entrepreneur, I'm in charge of buying my product, selling my product, making a profit, and you, Mr. Salesperson, you're going to bring in the money. I can tell you right now, that's a flawed way to bring a sales force, and there's a reason why. The reason being is most salespeople are poor administrators. Most salespeople are bad marketers, and most people cannot track a lead. They don't understand database systems. They don't understand your CRM. They have no organization with regard to management. Who has that experience? Yeah. Who has hired salespeople where it hasn't worked out on that level? We have a couple of people. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a way to kind of address this. And how you address this is assembly line the process. Split up the duties. Who's heard of the assembly line? Raise your hand. The assembly line was actually invented to actually simplify business processes so that a result can be produced. The assembly line process states, we're not going to put too much stake or too much trust in one individual. We're going to divide the labor in a way to actually produce the result with different people and different systems. And maybe technology could also be involved, machinery, anything that's necessary to actually produce the result. That's the concept of an assembly line. And in sales, we call this concept hunters, farmers, and closers. What we've learned is that most salespeople are bad hunters and bad farmers. What you want your salesperson to typically do is close. You want them to get in front of a prospect and close the deal. If you give them a good prospect, they'll close the deal for you. But if you don't give them a good prospect, chances are they won't generate a good prospect. That's what we've learned with most B2B companies. So the concept of assembly lining means that we're going to divide the labor in a way to to actually produce the result of the sale. We're going to have staff dedicated to cold calling, staff dedicated maybe to email marketing, staff dedicated to the follow-up and customer service, and then we're going to have the person who actually makes the sale. That's a totally different process than trying to hire one person, paying them $10,000 a month or $5,000 a month in a drawer and hoping that they do everything. So that's a concept that that I want everyone to grasp. And also the good news is that you can actually outsource some of these functions to outside companies so that one can achieve this and you could feed your salespeople. Most companies do not give their closes, the people who really could bring in money to the organization, most people do not give their salespeople the support that's needed. So that's the concept. So think in terms of three things, in terms of an outbound marketing program. Think in terms of, one, you have to proactively seek the business. Two, think in terms of you have to create a budget for it. And then most importantly, think in terms of the assembly line. Make sure that you're giving the salespeople the actual support and don't rely on salespeople totally on bringing in the business. Very important. Let's talk about idea 2 now. Social media. Who here is on social media? Christopher Wilkinson, actually he's a client of BizGro. Social media, what's the purpose of it?
So to reach the audiences that are on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, because there's a big population of that medium, that goes to that medium, and it makes for a very good target audience to reach.
Mike Capola, you're in the web development business, right? In your mind, what is the role of social media?
Depends for different clients, but for a B2B business, it's about leveraging the communications that you're having offline. It's really about ensuring that as you're prospecting, as you're building relationships, it's no secret that they are going to social media to see what's said about you, what you stand for, how you portray yourself, and that's part of the sales process. And you can't deny that it isn't. For other businesses, it may mean different things. But for B2B businesses that don't think that social media plays a role, it's a little bit of backwards thinking.
All right, there's a lot of misconception about social media. So I want to point out the 2 misconceptions. One misconception is created by a lot of web development firms that try to convince you that you're going to get clients from social media. Therefore, they try to convince you that to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month on social media marketing, thinking that they're going to go and create leads for it. In other words, what they're doing is they're selling this concept as a marketing expense, and they're capitalizing on the mystique of social media, and they're saying, hey, this is the new way to market. This is the new trend. This is the future. And they're selling it as a marketing expense, and as a company, and I've seen businesses blow between $20,000 and $80,000 a year on social media with the promise of actually bringing in business. Which means that the web development firms have sold you on the idea of it being a marketing strategy. They've sold you the idea of that this is the wave of the future. And you know what? From the common business owner's perspective, it looks like it's the wave of the future. It looks like it's the new marketing concept. So you don't mind putting out the money. But here's the real deal with social media. And I want to expose these charlatans. That's what it is. They're taking your money. So I'm going to expose them today. Social media is nothing more than a relationship management tool. It's nothing more than PR. It's kind of like PR built for small business. You might be on LinkedIn. You might be on Facebook. You might be on Twitter. You might have developed some YouTube videos. Actually, we're developing a YouTube video right now. Yeah. So you might have all of this, and social media is nothing more than an inexpensive way to do PR online. For the first time in history, small business has the chance to do PR in the way big companies can do it. But to spend $3, $4, $5, $10,000 a month, or whatever the amount the web development firms tries to convince you that it costs, is outrageous. This is not going to bring in your business. It's just a management tool. So what is social media?
But you do need your website.
Website's different from social media.
Yeah, well, I understand, but you do need your website.
Absolutely. You
Because
need the
everybody
website.
always asks for it.
Actually, we're going to talk about that. So what is social media? Social media, we developed these PowerPoints for the people who are visual in the room. You know, those who have like attention deficit disorder. I want you to
Sure.
appreciate this PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of people like that.
I mean, if you don't have attention deficit disorders, you guys should pay attention to what I'm saying. But for the other part of the room, you know, look at the PowerPoint. Here's the thing with social media. In addition to it being a relationship manager, now we talked about outbound marketing, about getting the lead. Get the lead, go to the lead, build a relationship with the lead, bring in the business. We talked about outbound marketing. Social media is the follow-up. Social media is the keeping in touch. Social media gives you the opportunity to build a relationship and actually manage the interactions of clients, manage the interactions of prospects, manage the interactions of your community, your target market, right? But your name is? Christina actually made a very good point. She said, well, you need your website, right? What she's implying is that for people to do business with you, they expect you to have certain things. Who here would do business with someone who did not have a website?
I've done it.
That's 3 people in the room. Who here would not do business with someone who did not have a website?
Not.
If they did not have a website, who here, if they did not have a website, who here would do business with that firm? All right, hold up.
Another bank, take your hand down.
Sorry, that's the law school in me. I just asked the question 3 different ways. Either way, here's the bottom line. What we have found is that social media is becoming a sales credibility tool. Meaning, when you meet a prospect and you don't have a LinkedIn, and you don't have a Facebook, and you don't have presence on YouTube, and you don't have a website linking everything together, right? Your prospect could question your credibility. Your prospect could question whether you are even a modern day firm. You know, if you have a website that says john@aol.com, you are not projecting a modern day business. And that's kind of what we're leaning towards. You must move in the direction of at least projecting yourself as a modern day entity. And one of the ways to do that is to have a presence with social media. It's not a marketing tool to generate a lead. What it is it's a selling credibility tool. And that is one of the key elements of social media. So that's one of the things I want you to pay attention with social media. Let's talk about idea 3. This is for the smart people in the room. So the dumb people could take a break. Smart people, pay attention to this strategy. Who's smart? Who's really smart?
There's always something else you always learn from something.
Yes, here it is. I want you to pay attention to this strategy. Business acquisitions. It's the one strategy that could double the size of your company. It could triple the size of your company. It could quadruple the size of your company. It could take your company to the next level. Business acquisitions. What prevents people from doing business acquisitions? The problem is most people who actually don't do business acquisitions actually think it takes a lot of money to do business acquisitions. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Business acquisitions requires ingenuity. Business acquisitions requires deal making. Business acquisitions requires vision. Business acquisitions, as this side states, visual people in the room, is the safest, most efficient, most explosive way to grow a company. Absolutely. If you're not interested in 10% growth, we have clients in the room, John Armis and Joe Sato, Durable Medical Equipment Company. I don't think you guys are interested in 10% growth. We're going to do some deals with them. They're interested in tripling the size of their business in the next 2 years. That's what they're interested in. They have no interest in 10% growth. So if you're interested in real deal growth, doubling, tripling, quadrupling the size of your business, business acquisitions is actually the way to go. How do you do it? What do we do? How do you actually execute the strategy? Well, I want to do an exercise. I want you to go write this down. This is actually a case study. So we're going to get our pens and we're going to go and get the pad down. And let's see, you're going to tell me what you think. Name, confidentiality. But that's the case study. Now, 20 million in sales. Company earns about $500,000 a year. Actually, it's a pretty strong earnings business. That's strong earnings. Inventory, let's say they have about inventory about 800,000, if I remember correctly, 800,000. They have receivables about 300,000. So receivables. We talked to them. Here's the interesting part. They said they just did a distribution deal with a company in South America. And they have access to an energy drink, and the energy drink is called Latin Lover. It's kind of like a Red Bull.
With a flair.
With a flair. And I'm not saying this because I have a Latino background. This is true. And on the beverage you have two people making love. It's like it's an art. But then I drank the energy drink and it just tastes like Red Bull. There's nothing really special about the drink. But he was excited about the deal. And he has exclusive distribution rights in the really the whole eastern part of the United States. So we talked to him. And he talked about two opportunities. One opportunity was to raise about, he called it $1.2 million to $1.5 million in money. Write that down. 1.2 million, 1.5 million. Now you got the other numbers down. 1.2 million, 1.5 million. Wants to raise that money. I asked him, what are you going to use the money for? He wants to use the money for salespeople. He wants to use the money for marketing. He wants to use the money he wants to buy more trucks so he could distribute the product. So his raising of the capital ranges from $1.2 million to $1.5 million in that range for those purposes. And he asked if he could see if he could get a loan from a lender. He went to his banker. He submitted an application. It got rejected. Even despite the fact he went to his own bank and he puts $20 million of receipts at this bank, they rejected him. So that's case study number one. Now, he had a second opportunity. The second opportunity was to acquire a company who actually approached him. He didn't even approach this company. The company was doing about $10 million in sales, which means if he acquired the company, he'd be a $30 million business. Now, he said the business made about $300,000 in earnings. He said the owner takes about $100,000 salary and there's about $300,000 profits left over. Which means he has $500,000 in earnings. This company has $300,000 in earnings. Means if he acquired this company, he'd essentially have $800,000 in earnings. Now, he had some receivables. I believe the $10 million target had similar receivables to him because I think the clientele was a little different and they had some problems collecting the money. So he had similar receivables, similar inventory. Probably a poorly managed business compared to him. But had he acquired it, he probably would have been able to put the $10 million company in his facility and have a $30 million company. So now you have the case study. Choice one is you actually have a situation where you have a $30 million company. Case two is you have a $30 million company. Case one is you have a product that you're selling with the promise of future sales. I want everybody to close their eyes right now. I want everyone to close their eyes. Pretend that you're a banker. Pretend you're a banker. You're underwriting this. Right? Think about this. Now, open your eyes. Which deal's a better deal from a banking standpoint? Why? Existing cash flow. Why else?
Leverageable assets.
Synergies. Why else?
Efficiencies.
You're investing the money in the first deal
Uh-huh.
on the plan or the risk of revenue coming in.
So everyone agrees that deal two is the better deal.
Yeah.
Who here thinks that the exercise of closing your eyes was totally unnecessary to choose this choice?
Everybody in the room.
You know, I just did it to see if I could do it. It's called crowd control.
You just want to know if we were listening.
Just want to see if you're listening. Here it is. Deal two is better as for all the reasons why everyone said. And it's the perfect excuse to raise money. Because he could have bought this company, had access to salespeople, had access to marketing channels, and still probably promote the Latin Lover product. And that's one of the opportunities that a lot of business owners in this market miss, is that they're not using business acquisitions as a way to raise money. There's a way that you can raise money with it. You don't need to just simply increase cash flow. You could use it as an excuse to develop a relationship. Yes?
You never told us what the cost to buy business two was. The cash out of pocket. Cash out of pocket.
All right, let me try to share with you a concept. And let's see if I... How about this? Let me go into the midst of business acquisitions, and then we're going to talk about what you just brought up, because it's very important. And you brought up a very good point. The reason why most people don't use business acquisitions as a real deal strategy is, number one, they think you need cash and money to invest. How about this? If you have a real business and you have skill sets, forget about the money. Get the deal. We'll get the money. If you have that mindset, then the deal's possible. You know, I read something very interesting that George Steinbrenner in the early 70s bought the Yankees for $10 million when the Yankees were in total distress. What was interesting is they stated that George Steinbrenner, on a $10 million deal in the early 1970s, put $250,000 of his own money. Okay, so I figured he put a little down payment, only to find out that most of that down payment was a line of credit from his bank. He didn't put his own money. He found the deal. As an entrepreneur, your job is to find the deal. So for you to focus on this money part is stupid. Get the deal and we'll find the money. Or you can find the money. It's the deal that's the hard part to get, not the money. If you get a good deal, the money will follow. And that's the part I want to emphasize. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely not.
So what's your question?
How much money is required? You say get the deal. Many times the deal is dependent on how much money you're willing to come up with. And sometimes, as you said, the banks today, it's different than 7 years ago, the banks don't even want to lend on assets.
So get an investor. See,
Okay.
so here's the problem. Here's the problem. The problem is a lot of businesses approach investors with fly-by-night opportunities. They rarely approach investors with deals. They don't say, hey, I have a $20 million company, and I'm looking at a $10 million target, and I have a potential $30 million company to actually develop. Can you invest $500,000? They don't approach investors like that.
It's in the other aspect of this is, and I agree with you 100%. The other aspect of this is having to talk about whether or not the companies have any kind of synergy, because they could. And this deal could easily be done with paper.
Yes.
Where two companies come together because company A has the sales and marketing, company B's got the ops or some such. And it comes together, and then the two of them together as a $30 million company go out and raise money for growth and to sustain cash flow. That's an easy deal.
That's a good, see what I want everyone to think in terms of is, as an entrepreneur, you should be thinking in terms of getting the deal. The money will follow if the deal is good. And if you have a real business and you have a good deal, and let me tell you, this is not just a strategy for a business that's doing $10 million. You could be doing $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in sales, and now you identify a target that does a couple of million in sales. But because of your experience and your background and the way you have your company set up, you can quadruple the size of your company and get the money. So the real deal, the real skill is getting the deal, and that's one of the major myths of why owners don't use business acquisitions as a real growth strategy, is because they think they need money. When they don't need money, they need to get a deal to justify the money. That's a key aspect. Now, a lot of people think you need additional personnel and additional expertise, and you need to find an owner that wants to sell. All of these are just total myths. First of all, if you need additional personnel, normally the target business that you're trying to buy has the personnel. So that's a key concept. Another thing, in terms of expertise, well, you're in the business. And here's another phenomenon. Most owners who want to sell their business are willing to stay in their business. It's a new phenomenon. No one wants to sell their company. The baby boomers, people born from 1946 to 1964, they think they're young. They think they're going to live forever. They're not going anywhere. The word retirement has become a bad word. They'd rather stay in their business and partner up, and then they'll transition. This generation is going to work till they're 80. They're not going nowhere. It's very important to understand that the baby boomer generation is a generation that does not want to exit their businesses. And people in the wealth management, in the business brokerage, in the mergers and acquisitions, in this exit planning arena, they got the ball all wrong, because their target market does not want to leave. They want to transition. They want to stay, which gives you, the entrepreneur, the opportunity to acquire and keep these people in the business, which eliminates this part of the need for expertise. So I want you to, that's another way to think. With regard to the owners that want to sell, hey, the best deals are probably not owners who are looking to sell. Because most owners don't want to put their business out there. Most owners don't want to publicize the sale of their company. Most owners want the business sale to be a private event. Which means that if you're a proactive seeker of business acquisitions and you market your company as an acquirer, you have the opportunity to actually do a deal because your target doesn't want to market their company. And they might sell the business to you just because they see you as someone who is credible and someone who they can transition the business to, as opposed to trying to sell the business for the amount of money that they want to sell for. That's a very critical distinction and gives business people in this room an opportunity to double, triple, quadruple the size of their business. Very important distinction. Let's talk about the two types of business acquisitions. Two types of business acquisitions. One type of business acquisition is you simply buy a business in your industry. That's one acquisition. You have a durable medical equipment company, and you want to buy another durable medical equipment company. Company does 5 million sales, the target does 3 million sales, now you have an $8 million business. That's one opportunity. The second type of business acquisition is a strategic acquisition. A business that is complementary by nature. They're not in your industry. They sell products and services different from you. Different products and services. And they can complement your business. That's a totally different type of business acquisition. So one we call an industry-based acquisition, the other we call a strategic acquisition. In terms of growing your company, think in terms of what you want. Do you want more sales or do you want more product? Two more types of acquisitions, and this is very key because I'm gonna try to tie this into a marketing concept. One is a fold-in transaction. What's a fold-in transaction? You acquire a company that's struggling. You're doing 10 million in sales, and the person you're buying is doing 500,000 in sales. And the company that's doing 500,000 in sales is struggling. He's making a little living. He's paying his bills, but he doesn't really want to be in business no more. So you buy him, you don't really put much money down, and you pay him out based on a payout long range. So now you have a $10 million, $500,000 business on one deal. How many accounts do you have to get $500,000? You just made the deal, you didn't put out money, but you've acquired what we call a struggling company, and we like to call it a fold-in transaction, meaning you're not buying their facility, you're not taking over their facility, you're just taking their book of business and you're folding it into yours. That's what we call a fold-in transaction. The second is what we call a standalone transaction. Now these are the sexy ones. These are the ones that will take your company to the next level. Double, triple, quadruple your size of your business. These are the businesses that you're doing 3 million in sales, and maybe your target's doing 10 million in sales. So maybe now you're a $13 million company just with the acquisition itself. Now you might ask yourself, where do I get the money? Don't worry about it. Get the deal, get the financial statements, put the business plan together, and you'll have a chance to raise the money. Those are the two concepts. Now, final concept, which is 4. Concept 4 is raising money. Who here agrees it's just harder to get money in this environment? It's just, you go to a bank, who here would agree with that? All right. I want to point out the new paradigm. Okay? The new paradigm. In the past, there used to be angels. There used to be banks. There used to be sources for money that you could actually get. That's the past. Those no longer exist. They no longer exist, and there's a new paradigm that's developed. And here's the new paradigm. It's hard to go to a bank and get money. I think, gentlemen here, right? You're already talking about banks with frustration. I can tell. Right?
Talking to you.
Talking to you.
He knew you had the check.
You look like you have the checkbook. Maybe she has the checkbook. So you're ready. It's a different environment. You go to a bank, and they're not giving you the money. You go to an angel, they're not giving you the money either. They just lost $2 million on their investment that they made in 2007 and it doesn't exist. So now there's no angels. There's no banks. There's no angels. Where do you go? There's a new paradigm. One is called a strategic partnership. Strategic partnership is you grow your business through a joint venture. And what's a joint venture? Meaning, you have a business, you sell a product and service, and you're trying to figure out, where do I get resources? Now, I just want to show the hands in the room. When you want money, what do you want the money for typically? Let me get some answers here.
For growth and expansion,
What does that mean?
meaning that we want to be able to grow the company, increasing the sales of the products and services as well as profitability. But I know that,
But what do you want the money for?
well, it's the buy-in. I would use that, it would be able to do that.
Resources. How about you? Resources.
Want the money for purchase order financing.
Purchase order financing. What other? Anyone else can come up with a reason or a way to invest the money. What do you want the money for? You want to raise money. What are you going to use the money for? Inventory.
Advertising.
Advertising. So you have advertising. You have inventory. You have expansion. Right? And that's what you're going to use the money for. So here's a thought. Why don't you partner up with a company that has the resources you don't have? For instance, if you have the customer, why not get a company who has the product? If you have the customer, why don't you get the company that has the salespeople? If you have the customer, why don't you get the company who has the warehouse? That's a concept in itself. So this is what we call a strategic partnership. Getting access to resources from another company. Now, vice versa. Let's just say you have the product and you have the warehouse. So maybe you need to get someone who has the customers. That's a strategic partnership. Another concept is a financial partnership. A financial partnership is nothing more than partnering up with another company and selling a portion of your business to another firm. So if you sell part of your business to another firm and they have part ownership and you have part ownership, now you have one company investing the money and you as the owner operates the company. And that's what we call a financial partnership. So there's a strategic partnership and there's a financial partnership. And that's one of the new paradigms of raising money instead of going to angels and banks and private equity groups and individuals for money. So these are the 4 ideas. So 4 ideas, and I'm going to bring my colleague Martin to now start the Metlife part of this. 4 ideas. I want everybody to repeat this. First idea: a budgeted outbound marketing process that's assembly line. Let's repeat that. A budgeted outline marketing that's assembly line. Second, social media as a relationship management strategy. Let's repeat that. Social media as a relationship management strategy. Third, this is for the smart people. Business acquisitions as a growth accelerator. A lot of smart people in the room. They like that one the best. And then finally, raise money through financial and strategic partnerships.
Money through financial and strategic partnerships.
There you go.